Hi everyone, I'm Andy, and whether you're a college student heading off on your own for the very first time, or you're a parent sending your son or daughter hours away, this video is for you. When there's nobody around to help with car trouble or maintain your vehicle, small issues can turn into big expensive problems real fast. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through the basics, such as how to check your fluids, how to keep your tires safe, what those warning lights on the dash actually mean and which ones mean you should pull over right away, and how to stay on top of your car's overall condition without needing a mechanic in your back pocket. I'll also show you where to find help when you need it because let's be honest, your car doesn't care if you got finals next week. So let's get into it. Now my daughter's heading off to college over 900 miles away, so this video is for her as well. Now our guinea pig here today is a base model 2014 Honda Civic. We're going to start out with a basic maintenance checklist. First things first, we're going to start by popping the hood. And to do that, you're going to look for a lever that looks something like this. Now it could be here, it could be under the dash. Now most times it's going to be down here below the dash around where your left foot would be. And many times it'll have a picture of a car with a hood open on it. And what you're going to do is just take that lever and pull it. The next thing you're going to do is find your secondary release for the hood, which will be a lever of some kind, usually under the hood itself after it has popped. You can pull it up a little bit to give you more room if you need to. I feel the lever right here, and we're just going to lift ours up and open the hood. Now many vehicles today will actually have hood struts that will keep the hood open, but this one has an old-fashioned prop rod, which is right here. So you want to take that prop rod out of its holder, and you want to put it where it's designed to go. And then that holds the hood up. Let's start with checking the engine oil because that is the most important fluid that any engine needs. Now you want to do this with the car level, the engine cold, or it's been shut off for at least 5 minutes. Take your dipstick, pull it out. The first time, wipe it off with a rag, and then put it back in. All the way to the bottom. Pull it back out, and now check your oil level. Now on your dipstick, you're going to either see some hash marks like this where your oil level needs to be, or 2 lines, one down low and one up high that you should be in between, or they could be labeled L and H for low and high. Now we are up here, we're a little over full on oil, it's not a big deal. Plus I'm getting ready to change it so it'll end up more accurate then. But we're good on oil. As long as you stay in these hash marks or between those lines or whatever markings are on your dipstick, you're good to go. Now, as far as keeping your engine oil changed, you need to look at the manufacturer's recommendations in your owner's manual for what intervals it tells you to change the oil. Most manufacturers today are recommending 10,000 miles between oil changes. I do not recommend going over 5,000 miles in any vehicle because I've seen what 10,000 mile oil changes do to an engine, and it's not pretty. And we'll talk later in the video about my recommendations on how to find a good place to get your oil changed and maintenance items that you can't do yourself. Let's move on to checking your coolant level. This is not where you do it. And in most cases, you're going to be looking for a reservoir where to check this. If you look in your owner's manual, it'll tell you where yours is. Now Honda buried this one way down beside the battery. You can see the cap to it right here. And in order to check it, I have to put a light down here. And it should have minimum and maximum marks for your coolant reservoir. Now some cars like this one will also have a radiator cap. Now this is another area where you should check for fluid as well if you have it. Make sure the car has completely cooled and you can touch this. And what you're going to do is turn it counterclockwise, like so, and make sure there's coolant in it. And it should be all the way up to the neck, which this one is. And then you can just put the cap back on. Now engine coolant is a fluid that needs change periodically as well, but it's typically 2 to 3 years or so many miles, and you can find that answer in your owner's manual for the vehicle. Next step is checking your windshield washer fluid, and that's almost always going to be a blue cap that has a picture of a windshield and a fountain in it. Some of these you might be able to look at the side of the tank and see how much you have. This one you can't, so you just open it up and fill it. Do not put water in here. Only put windshield washer fluid. Water will freeze if you're in a colder climate. Only use actual washer fluid. And what you're going to do is just dump it in, make a mess like I am. You can use a funnel to right about there. Now let's move on to another really important fluid. That's your brake fluid. That's what makes you stop. You're going to look for a reservoir like this, and if you can see it there below this seam, it says minimum. And right below the cap, it says maximum. You want to stay up at the maximum mark at all times. Now looking at the cap, you can see what this one looks like. They're always different, but they're always going to tell you what brake fluid they recommend, whether it be .3, .4. This one takes .3. Now you can see the fluid level on the side. Ours is right here. We're just right below the minimum line. But if you need to get in here, you turn this counterclockwise and it comes off. And you can see your fluid level in there. You can see this brake fluid is old. It is yellowed. It's due for changing, and I'm going to change it before she leaves for college. If yours looks like this, you should change it as well. Now what happens to brake fluid like that and why it turns yellow is it picks up moisture from condensation and it mixes with the fluid. Moisture in your brake lines will cause them to rust from the inside out, and eventually you'll end up with a leak or a break in the line itself and have no brakes. That's why it's really important to change your brake fluid when it gets like that. There are meters that you can buy that will tell you the water content in your brake fluid and when to change it. I just change ours every 3 to 5 years or so. The last fluid I'm going to talk about is power steering fluid. Now this car does not have it because it is electric power steering. There is no fluid. And most vehicles on the road today do have electric assist power steering. But here's an example of a few different power steering reservoirs and how to check them. Now that we have the fluids checked, there's a couple other things we want to check under the hood while we're here. First one is your battery. And you can see there's a label with a month and a number punched out. That's typically the date that this battery was replaced. So you can see this one was done in February, and they have the 4 punched out, which is 2024. It wouldn't be 2014. Batteries aren't going to last that long. So this battery is only about a year and a half old. Next thing we want to check is our terminals. Your positive terminal, the one you got to be really careful of putting metal next to, is almost always going to be denoted by something red. And what we're looking for on these terminals is that there's no corrosion. Corrosion's very easy to spot because it'll be a white or bluish powdery substance all over your terminal, and if it's left unchecked, it'll drain your battery. You can see there's grease all over our terminals. This will keep corrosion at bay and keep it from forming. Also check your terminals, move them back and forth, and make sure they're tight and do not move. If they do move, it's typically a 10 millimeter. You'll tighten this nut up on the negative, and you'll tighten this nut up on the positive, not this one. The next thing we're going to look at is our drive belt, and that is this right here. And what we're looking for is that it's not split or frayed or ripped, anything like that that would indicate that it needs changed. Ours looks pretty good, but if you lose this belt, you're going to lose your alternator, which is this, which charges your battery. You're going to lose your water pump, which pumps coolant through the engine and keeps it cool. You're going to lose your air conditioning. And in some of your older vehicles, you could lose power steering. Now, I'm not going to recommend an interval to change that belt. Just look at it once a month and make sure the condition's still good. And that's going to do it for under the hood. Let's move on to checking your tires, starting with the tire pressure. Now, I have 2 gauges here to check the tire pressure, a digital one and an old school one. Either are fine, but for your college student, it may be easier to read one of these. And you can pick this up for a couple bucks off of Amazon or a parts store. So now you're going to ask, Andy, how do I know what the tire pressure is supposed to be? Well, let me show you something. If you open your driver's door, you'll find this handy dandy little sticker. It could look something like this, might be a little bit different, but either are going to tell you the same information. And this will tell you all the pressures your tires need to be. It'll tell you the front, it'll tell you the rear, and it'll tell you the spare tire. As you can see, our front tire should be at 32 psi, our rear tire should be at 32 psi, and the spare tire should be at 60 psi. So let's take a look at what we got here. First off, you should have a cap on a valve stem like this that you're going to take off. Then, if you're using an old school gauge, you're going to take this end of it and you're going to press it and hold it against the valve stem until you don't hear any air. And you have to do it tightly. And you can see we're right around 32 psi. Now checking with the digital gauge, 31.5 psi. There's no need to add any to that tire. Moving on to another tire. Also 31.5 psi. 32 psi. 28 psi. We need to add some air to this tire. Now in actuality, that tire wasn't low. I let some air out of it so I could show you this handy tool that would be great to keep in your kid's vehicle when they go off to college or they go far away from home. And that's this Anneman jump packing compressor. You can see it's about the size of a brick, and this is capable of jump starting pretty much any passenger vehicle on the road. But with an added bonus that this has a compressor on board to pump up your tires. You can pump up car tires, truck tires, inflatables, rafts, etc. It comes with all the adapters you need to blow up just about anything. At the time of this video, this retails for about $64, but if you use the code on the screen, you'll get an additional 20% off of this on Amazon. And that's a small price to pay for a little bit of peace of mind for your student and yourself. So let's use this to blow this tire back up. First, you're going to take the inflator hose and you're going to screw it into the top of the unit. There we go. Then you're going to take the end of the air hose, open this up, put it on your valve stem as far as it'll go by hand, and then close it. Next, press the power button to turn the instrument on, and then hold it on to get the tire inflator. Press the second button until you get to PSI, where it's just PSI, no other icons around the screen. Now here, you can set your pressure. You can see it's telling us the pressure of the tire right now, which is 28.4 pounds. We want to set this to 32 PSI. Now after we set it, it's going to flash. Press the power button again.
A few moments later.
And that took less than a minute. Then open up your valve and take it off, just like so. And how accurate are we? Let's see. 32 PSI, right on the money. Inside the hard shell case, you'll find the connector for jump-starting vehicles, which has your clamps on the other end. You'll find a USB charging cord, as well as the adapters for blowing up balls and inflatables, things like that. Now I'm going to have this jump pack in my daughter's car while she's away at college, and I'd like to thank Animan for sponsoring this video and sending me the jump pack to send along with her.
Dashboard warning lights.
Let's take a look at these a little more in depth, see what they mean, and see which the most important ones are. This light means there's a fault with your electronic power assist steering system. This can illuminate either yellow or red. If it is red, pull over safely to the side of the road. Try shutting off the car and starting it back up again. If it goes away, you can resume driving, keeping a close eye if the light returns. If it does return, it's time for a visit to the garage. This one is your traction control warning light. This light may come on momentarily if you're losing traction on the surface that you're driving on. If it comes on steady, that means there's a problem with the traction control system. What this means is that the traction control system may not prevent an event where your wheels are spinning due to low traction. It doesn't necessarily mean it's time for a trip to the garage right away, but it is something you should have taken care of the next time you take your car in. This one is your tire pressure monitoring system warning light. If this comes on, this means one or more of your tires have registered a lower PSI than the others by usually a few PSI. You should pull over at your earliest convenience and check your tire pressures and inflate the ones that are necessary. This light is a low coolant temperature indicator. This will come on when you first start the car until the car warms up and is normal. If it comes on after you've driven for a few minutes, or it stays on after a few minutes, it means your coolant temperatures are not getting up to the normal range. This should not affect the way the car drives and should be fairly unnoticeable. The only thing you may notice is a drop in your fuel economy. This is another one that can wait until the next time you take your car in for a service. This is your low oil pressure warning light. If this light comes on, it means you need to pull the car over immediately and shut it off. The most common reason this light comes on is because you do not have enough oil in your engine. And many times when this light comes on, the damage is already done and your engine's already making noise. This is why it's important to check your oil at least once a week to make sure you're not leaking any oil or burning any oil and you're not low. Wait for the car to cool down a few minutes, then check your oil level. If it's very low, you can put some oil in and start the car back up to see if it goes away. If the light doesn't go away, shut the car back off immediately, call a towing company and have it towed to the nearest service facility. This light is very bad. The red brake warning light comes on when you set your parking brake and goes off when you turn the parking brake off. It may also come on if there's a serious fault in the brake system of the car. If this comes on while you're driving, you need to safely pull the car off the road and check your brake fluid. If your brake fluid reservoir is full, there's another issue going on. If your brake pedal still feels good and you have plenty of fluid in the reservoir, you can continue driving safely to your next destination, but you should get this checked out immediately. The amber brake system warning light will come on in the event of an issue with the brake system, but is less serious than the red warning light. Usually with this light, you can keep driving and get it checked at your earliest convenience. The ABS warning light will come on when there's a malfunction with the anti-lock braking system of the car. This does not mean your brakes will fail. It just means if the anti-lock brake system isn't functioning and you hit the brakes hard, your wheels could lock up. This is also something that does not need to be checked immediately, but should be checked the next time you take the car in for service. The check engine light, also known as the check wallet light, illuminates when there's an emissions system issue. This can be from a failed oxygen sensor, crank or cam position sensor errors. There's literally thousands of things that it can be. If this comes on while you're driving and the engine is not making any different noises, you can safely take the car to your destination and make a service appointment for it as soon as possible. The red battery light will come on when there's a charging system issue with the car. This means that your alternator is not charging the battery, and if you continue to drive the car and use the accessories, your battery will eventually die and the car will shut off. The best thing to do when this comes on driving down the road is turn off as many accessories as you can. For example, your radio, your climate control, your lights if it isn't dark outside, etc. If you're only a few miles from your destination, you should be able to make it safely. If you're more than a few miles away, it might be time to pull the car over to the side of the road, call a towing company, and have it towed to the nearest service center. The last light we're going to talk about is the SRS light, also known as the airbag light. This means there's a malfunction in the supplemental restraint system and could prevent your airbags from going off in the event of a collision. Drive safely to your next destination and call your nearest service center for an appointment. Next thing we need to discuss is keeping your vehicle clean and presentable.
Oh, look at that. That's nice and shiny.
Now, the reasons you want to keep your car clean are pretty simple. First, a car that's not washed regularly will lead to rust and corrosion down the road that could total your car. Secondly, it's bad for your paint, especially bugs and bird droppings, because they're highly acidic and they will burn into your clear coat. And thirdly, a car is a pretty big investment. Have a little pride in your ride. So I recommend washing your car fully once a week, twice a week if you're ceramic coated. And if you're not ceramic coated, wax it about every 6 months. Now, I highly recommend the ceramic coat route because they typically last a few years. And what that does is put a protective layer over top of your paint that'll make bugs, bird droppings, dirt, everything easier to wash off, while also protecting your paint. Lastly, one of the things you need to check are your windshield wipers. These are extremely important. If they're not taking the rain off your windshield anymore, or they're leaving streaks, things like that, you need to replace these. These do not last forever. Typically, they last a few months, and that's about it. And they're stupid expensive anymore. They're very easy to replace. It is model specific, so you'll have to look yours up on Google or your manual or wherever you can find directions to replace your wiper blades. And you see what I did with the arm there? Most vehicles will pull out and lock to make it easier for you to change the wiper blades. Lastly, what do you do when you do encounter a problem? Well, your first step should be right here. This is your owner's manual for the vehicle. Inside of here, and it's pretty thick, there's a lot of good information about your car. It'll explain the warning lights, it'll tell you fluid capacities, it'll tell you specifications, it'll tell you what to do if this light comes on and that light comes on outside of this video. There's a lot of good stuff in here if you just open a book. Secondly, you can look on Google and YouTube for answers. Both are a really good resource if you've never encountered that problem before. Now, when it does come time to get a mechanic on the issue, Google is your best friend. Search for mechanics near you and look at the reviews. Don't just pick the closest one. While most mechanics out there are there to help you, there are some that are shady and just want your money. Hence, look at the reviews. In closing, here's a few more important tips. Let's get back to that oil change thing. Search the same way you would for a mechanic on Google and find somebody that you trust to do your oil changes. And like I said, do not go over 5,000 miles. I recommend using AMSOIL. In independent testing, it's one of the best oils out there to reduce wear and tear on your engine and increase the life of your car. Also, if your car's going to sit for long periods of time, over a week or two, take it for a drive once a week just to keep the battery charged up and the fluids moving. It could save you a breakdown down the road. Anyway, regardless of what your circumstance is, why you're leaving home, going to college, whatever, I wish you good luck, have a fantastic day, and I'll see you next time.